how do you deter somebody like Vladimir Putin when it is clear that the West has zero intention of shedding blood in the event that he takes over the entirety of Ukraine, which in my opinion appears to be in the offing? You do it by trying to dissuade him by telling him he'll pay a price. What kind of price? You do it by arming the Ukrainians. You do it by dissuading Europe from becoming more and more dependent on energy from Russia. You know, Germany gets about half of its energy, gas, natural gas, oil, natural gas from Russia. About 40% of the rest of the European countries do. You know, about a decade ago, Germany had 17 nuclear power plants. Soon it'll be down to 3. You do it by discouraging this Nord Stream 2 pipeline under the Baltic Sea, which would make Germany and the rest of Europe even more dependent upon Soviet natural gas. There's a reason, according to the latest Gallup poll, that Joe Biden's ratings are now at 41%. Only 36% approve of his handling of the situation in Russia. You know where Donald Trump stood at the same juncture in his presidency? 40%. About the same as Biden. But consider this. 91% of the news coverage on ABC, NBC, CBS of Trump was negative. They've been rolling all over themselves, twisting themselves into pretzels to defend Joe Biden's mumbling, stumbling. The borders are completely ignored, as you know. Inflation, they're dismissing it as first transitory, and then they said it's a worldwide phenomenon. He had absolutely nothing whatever to do with it. Can you imagine if he made lie after lie after lie, Donald Trump? Biden says, Build Back Better. By the way, you ever hear anybody mention Build Back Better now? I watched a lot of CNN and MSNBC, so you don't have to. You never even hear that term anymore, Build Back Better, because it was drop kicked by Democrats, Joe Manchin, Sinema. So now all of a sudden it's ancient history. It's a failed plan by Joe Biden. So CNN, MSNBC, EHA don't even talk about it any more than they talk about the borders. And when Biden gave that speech yesterday, he said it was the beginning of an invasion. Isn't that similar to what he said earlier when he said, well, if there's a minor incursion, that's one thing. And the president of Ukraine hopping mad when he said that. Quote, this is the beginning of a Russian invasion. And the deputy national security advisor was on with one of the friendlies, and she finally got him to concede on CNN, this is an invasion. Finally got him to concede it. On and on and on and on. This is Brianna Keeler, CNN, getting the national security official to finally say the I word, invasion.
So you called this the beginning of the latest Russian invasion of Ukraine. Is that different than an invasion?
I think latest is important here. An invasion is an invasion, and that is what is underway. But Russia has been invading Ukraine since 2014. They've been occupying large pieces of Ukraine since 2014, including, although they've denied it, Russian troop presence in exactly the two, what they now call republics, but that are really provinces of a sovereign Ukraine that they recognized yesterday. So Russia is essentially making overt what it has denied for some time, which is a Russian troop presence in these places, and we are taking steps in response to that.
Why not call it an invasion? Just call it an invasion instead.
Why not just call it an invasion? Why not just say it's an invasion?
Instead of this talking point.
Again, this is CNN.
Point of the beginning of the latest Russian invasion of Ukraine.
I don't know how much more clear I can be, Brianna. This is the beginning of an invasion.
Well, you could just call it an invasion. And
I don't know how much more clear I could be, Brianna. Well, you could just call it, an invasion. That might solve the problem.
An invasion. Just call it an invasion instead of this talking point of the beginning of the latest Russian invasion of Ukraine.
I don't know how much more clear I can be, Brianna. This is the beginning of an invasion.
You could just call it an invasion. And I only ask this because
this is like a Saturday Night Live skit, isn't it? It's like a skit.
let us play
Babylon Bee.
What the administration has talked about before. They didn't talk about the beginning. This is how they described an invasion. I want to listen.
Now, this is Biden, Deputy National Security Advisor, and Secretary of State. All this about 3 weeks ago. Here's what they said.
If any assembled Russian units move across the Ukrainian border, that is an invasion. But it will be met with severe and coordinated economic response that I've discussed in detail with our allies, as well as laid out very clearly for President Putin.
If any Russian military forces move across Ukraine's border, that's a renewed invasion. It will be met with swift, severe, and a united response from the United States and our partners and allies.
What's the definition of invasion there, though?
Well, President Biden has spoken to the fact that if a Russian tank or a Russian troop moves across the border, that's an invasion. That is an invasion, and the result of that, from our perspective, would be the imposition of severe economic consequences.
I think the distinction here may have to do with the response that an invasion triggers. Why not just call it an invasion?
I mean, again, I guess for the third or fourth time, I am calling it an invasion. We are taking a severe response, including sanctions on Russia that we'll be rolling out in a matter of hours. We've already taken...
You see, the problem is she doesn't speak Bidenese. The Trump State Department says the U.S. will provide Ukraine with enhanced defensive capabilities to protect itself against Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. President Obama imposed sanctions on Russia, but did little else after Putin took the Crimean Peninsula in what was the first big European land grab since World War II. Obama decided, writes the Chicago Tribune, that, by the way, editorialized twice in favor of Obama's candidacy. Obama decided that providing lethal weapons to Ukraine would accomplish little but antagonize Putin. Yet refusing to arm Ukraine had the opposite effect, writes the Chicago Tribune editorial board. It emboldened Putin. Obama's hesitance is one reason why Russian-backed rebels control eastern Ukraine today. May I repeat that last line? And again, this is relevant because the Chicago Tribune twice editorialized in favor of Obama's presidency. Quote, Obama's hesitance is one reason why Russia-backed rebels controlled eastern Ukraine today. U.S. officials have been signaling new support for providing Ukraine with arms. The point is not to discourage an escalation of fighting or draw Russia into direct confrontation with us, but to make Russian interference more costly. Javelin missiles being supplied by Trump are tank killers. The separatists possess Russian armored vehicles. Will Russian reaction translate into a more lethal conflict now that Donald Trump has done this? Yes. But war with Ukraine is a reality, and a West that flinches from the prolonged Russian incursion will only please Putin. The bottom line, writes this editorial that has congratulated Trump in the Chicago Tribune, the bottom line is that Putin's meddling in the affairs of other states won't stop unless he is challenged. Trump has done that. Ukraine's ability to fight back against the separatists has been hampered by a lack of firepower. Now it will get some. Now Ukraine can punch back.